We have participants across the globe who are logging in virtually, and then we have those who are here physically in attendance. I'll chair the plenary session today. My name is Emmanuel Awor. I'm an associate professor of leadership and supply chain management at the School of Management and Leadership, the Management University of Africa. So to start it off, I would request that we stand for the national anthem. We shall have both the Kenya national anthem followed by the East African anthem and possibly the MUA anthem. So let's start with the national anthem. We remain standing for the East African anthem.
Mungu twaomba unilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuajirike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajirike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Thank you. I was expecting the MUA anthem, but we can sit now. I think the next is a prayer, and I'm going to request two volunteers, or maybe just one. Any volunteer for the opening prayer? A volunteer for the opening prayer? Tom Kawino.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, glory and honor be unto your holy name. We thank you for this morning that you have given us. We also thank you for this opportunity that we have in this conference. Father, before we start, we want to ask you to be with us today and tomorrow as we go through these conference proceedings. Bless each one of us, and even those who are not with us physically but online. We pray that you continue to bless them and be with us. Be with us until we finish tomorrow, for this is our humble prayer in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
May I request any of our Muslim brothers who want to volunteer for a prayer? Any of our Muslim students and participants who wants to volunteer for a prayer? Okay, nobody is ready. I think we can proceed. As I said, we have 2 days to showcase research that has been done over the last 1 year on various areas of leadership and management. We have scholars logged in from across the globe. We have participants from Japan, from the US, from India, and regionally, as well as our own students, right from the PhD doctoral level to the master's and the undergraduate students. So feel welcome to this event. We promise that it's going to be very rich for all of us. At the end of the session tomorrow, we shall have conference deliberations just to wrap up on the issues that were discussed through the keynote presentations and at the presentations at the various breakaway rooms. So I think that will be very important. So I'm only urging you to log until the end tomorrow so that you listen to your views through the wrap-up from the rapporteurs on the conference declaration. Having said that, I now want to have the pleasure of introducing the DVC in charge of academic research and extension, at the Management University of Africa, and that is Dr. John Chelget. So welcome, Dr.
Thank you very much, Professor Awor. As Professor Awor has said, I'm Dr. John Chelget, DVC, and also the Chairman Conference Planning Committee for this particular event. Before I welcome our Vice Chancellor, Professor Washington Okeyo, I want to make some remarks. Distinguished guests, paper presenters, conference participants, our international partners, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, good morning. Good morning once again. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to MUA 9th International Conference on the topic of redefining organizational leadership and management post-COVID-19 pandemic. As you are all aware, the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic visited unprecedented suffering to businesses and disrupted social order around the world. This conference has been organized hot on the heels of the aftermath of this particular pandemic, basically to take stock of the gains and losses and probably set a possible pathway to recovery. Similarly, I'm delighted to note that the conference is both virtual and in-person, basically to afford an opportunity for wide and inclusive participation. It is important to note that this is our second virtual conference, having held a successful one back in the year 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome all our international partners from across the globe, especially from Japan, India, and USA. I thank you most sincerely for your support and look forward to even more collaborations in future. I also thank the paper presenters, rapporteurs, as well as many others who will be instrumental in the success of this particular conference. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, this conference gives us an opportunity as scholars and academics to exchange ideas and knowledge. I call upon all of us to participate in our different roles so that we can have a successful international conference. At the end of the 2 days, I look forward to conference resolutions which will be shared with various stakeholders around the world, as well as with our new government of Kenya through the Ministry of Education. Once again, welcome to the conference, and it is now my pleasure to invite our Vice Chancellor, Professor Washington Okeyo, to make his opening remarks. Most welcome, Professor Okeyo.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chelget, the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of Academic Research and Extension. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, all participants. Paper presenters, conference participants, our international partners from Japan, who we have partnered with to prepare and have this conference today. We also have our guests and paper presenters from the United States. We also have our guests, participants, and paper presenters from India, And from definitely across the globe, we have quite a number of people who are participating, both physically and also virtually through the virtual link. All protocols observed. Good morning once again. It gives me great pleasure this morning to welcome you all to the Management University of Africa, and especially to this 9th edition of our international conference on leadership and management, which is being held both virtually and physically. The university fraternity is very delighted to host this conference. And thanks to COVID-19, we have managed to get used to holding meetings and conferences through virtual means, and therefore it has made it very easy for people who are not able to attend physically to log in. And I'm glad to note that already we have more than quite a number that are logged in. I don't know what the number is. We'll get that record later. But I'm told there are quite a number that have already logged in. Now, similarly, allow me to recognize and welcome some specific people who have contributed significantly to the success of this conference. And I want to singly mention Professor Richard Miller, who is logged in from Japan, has been very instrumental in the planning and arrangement that has culminated into the success of this conference today. I also want to recognize and welcome Professor Zain, who is also logged in from Japan and has been very instrumental, particularly on the technical side of this conference. And these have been very instrumental to the success of this conference. I cannot forget to also mention Professor Jyoti from India. He also wears the cap of a retired colonel from the Indian Army, having worked there for over 30 years. And now he's full-time in academics. We have a collaboration with his institute in India, and we shall be signing an MOU tomorrow with his institute so that we can together have, together with our students, have that collaboration so that our students and staff are able to participate in the exchange programs and other academic activities that are pertinent to our institution and our staff. Now, regarding our Japanese friends, we are co-hosting this conference together because we are joined in the hip in the academic sector. We have been through collaboration or our collaboration with the Japanese universities, Kobe Gakuen University in particular, and other universities in Japan now. I think that we have now managed to get into about 4 of them. We started that collaboration immediately the university started some time back in about 10 years ago. And so we are growing stronger and stronger. And I want to express the deep appreciation of the university for our Japanese friends for this particular collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of the conference is redefining organizational leadership and management towards post-COVID-19 pandemic. We chose this theme for this conference because our university, the Management University of Africa, is known for management and leadership studies, particularly in this part of the world, Kenya, East Africa, and Africa. and of course beyond Africa, because we have students in Japan, we have other students in the United States, we have students all over the world, actually, including Australia and others. Additionally, the university felt the need to offer opportunity to scholars, industry experts, and government policymakers to exchange and share leadership, and especially and share leadership ideas, especially during and post-COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, the history of this university goes back to the year 2011, when the university was established through our sponsor, the Kenya Institute of Management, and the niche that this university was started on, as I stated earlier, is leadership and management. And therefore, the leadership conference, you note the theme is still leadership. Since then, the university has been organizing international conferences. This is our 9th international conference. And this is because we believe that conferences are important forums in academia for dissemination of research findings and exchange of ideas, where industry technocrats and academics meet to compare notes. Conferences also, we note, offer opportunities for delegates to network, and from academic and business alliances. The industry feels that academia is not doing enough to prepare graduates who are responsive to the industry needs. Yet, industry and academia require graduates with good management and leadership skills in this knowledge-driven economy. This conference will offer industry and the academia an opportunity for cross-pollination of ideas to address these gaps. In addition, the papers presented in this conference by seasoned scholars will be published in our university journal, that is the International Journal of Management and Leadership Studies, for further dissemination. Similarly, the concepts in the papers will continue immensely in the management and leadership knowledge base, not only in Africa, but also in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in extraordinary times, having gone through the lockdowns and all the experiences we had during the COVID-19 pandemic. This, therefore, is a time where everybody is seated, wherever we are seated, rather, we must remain standing, and where everybody is standing, we must remain outstanding. And in the event that everybody is outstanding, then we must become the measuring rod. This conference could not have been held at a much better time, especially owing to our experiences in the COVID-19 or during the COVID-19 period. This is when the world needs leadership and management most, skills rather most, to be able to combat the ravages that have been caused by COVID-19. And therefore, for us to survive the pandemic, which is still with us, we require concerted efforts by pulling together to be able to steer the world through the crisis. In this regard, therefore, Management University of Africa is alive to this reality, and this conference is our humble contribution towards the achievement of this fate. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to now wish you well as you deliberate on the theme of the conference in the next 2 days. I believe we will be able to come up with conference resolutions which will change the world. I wish you well as you go through the next 2 days. It is now my singular duty and pleasure to declare this virtual conference officially open.
Ladies and gentlemen, those who are keynote addresses from Dr. John Chelget, the DVC, and Professor Washington Okeo, the VC. A quick recap on what the two speakers put emphasis on was mainly about our collaborations with Japan and other institutions like India. And indeed, the VC has alluded to the fact that we'll be signing an MOU with one of the institutes from India, represented here by Professor Joyti. Again, the VC has put emphasis on the concept of triple helix, and that is the link between academia, industry, and practice. And indeed, he has alluded to the fact that this conference will be a showcase of what scholars have done and their contribution to industry and practice. And further, the papers presented today and tomorrow, the good ones, I'm not saying there are any bad ones, but we can't publish all of them. At least some will be selected for publication in our very premier journal, the International Journal of Management and Leadership. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I now have the honor and privilege to invite our keynote speaker, who is as well the chair of our council, and that is a former chair of the council, and that is Dr. Edward Odundo, who is our chief guest. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As has been said, my name is Dr. Edward Odundo. I'm actually the current chairman of the council, not former. So my apologies that I attend virtually because of health protocols. However, I'm happy to be with you today, and I will say good morning to all of you. The Vice Chancellor, the Chair of Conference, distinguished guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all participants this morning and welcome you most cordially to the official opening of the two-day Management University of Africa 9th International Conference. All of the credit of this year's conference must sit squarely on the shoulders of the members of the planning committee. It is through your dedication and hard work and planning that I can feel happy that the event is a success. It is you and your committee that I offer my profound thanks And I now know that the future events have a new benchmark to meet. This conference presents the best research outputs and contemporary developments in both academia and industry, with emphasis on leadership and management. Hence the theme, redefining organizational leadership, management towards post-COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome all eminent international speakers and guests from all over the globe, from different walks of life, who have joined us today through a blended mode to share their knowledge and vast experience with professionals. This event is a culmination of the enormous collective efforts that began when our university was awarded a letter of interim authority to operate. From that moment, many institutions and individuals have contributed in one form or another to our conference. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to take this opportunity to express my appreciation again to the Conference Planning Committee, distinguished guests, and let me express on behalf of the organizing committee our most sincere and wish all discussions and resolutions resulting from the 2 days to come with positive contributions to the consolidation of the aims and emphasis on corporate innovation, sustainability in philosophy, underlying it. Ladies and gentlemen, ongoing changes in organizations, operating environments, such as digital transformations and the emergence of the novel business model, meaning that sustainable innovation is becoming the focus of organizations of many types and sizes. Sustainable innovation is a process that provides optimal combination of a whole life cost and benefits to meet the customer's requirements. It is a process whereby organizations meet their needs and utilizes not only the organization, but also to society and economy, while minimizing the damage to the environment. This focus varies from mere green and environmental drive. Innovation to sustainable innovation, meaning that sustainable innovation is developed by considering a balanced combination of 3 elements: economic, social, and environmental. Economic elements traditionally dominates decision-making, yet with sustainability, the 3 elements are simultaneously and equally considered. Thus, the combination of social, environmental, and economic elements in innovation process differentiates sustainable innovation from the traditional innovation. Not every innovation as a result is sustainable. The majority of research conducted on sustainable innovation applies to large enterprises, but the sustainable innovation in small enterprises is different. In this context, sustainable innovation involves institutions coming up with new products, services, or procedures that are good for the organization and society in large. Ladies and gentlemen, the importance of sustainability in both private and public sector, there is an increasing pressure from customers, clients, government, and the public to put sustainable innovation into practice. One, organizations practicing sustainable innovation meet their needs not on private cost-benefit analysis, but with a view to maximize net benefit for themselves and the wider world. In so doing, they must incorporate intrinsic cost consideration into decision and alongside the conventional focus of price and quality. These considerations are typically divided into environmental, economic, and social. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll now address the issues of principles of sustainable innovation and technology development. And this includes to encourage innovation, develop competitive and sustainable innovation, full opportunity, manage demand, compliance with applicable international, national, state, and local laws, health and safety, and environmental impacts. Some of the technology attributes include connectivity, integration, visibility, responsiveness, readily available data, coordinating operations, among others. And some challenges of innovations are declining resources, critical balance between scale, reliability, and cost, undermined, undetermined, or uncertainty. All innovations actually involve uncertainties. And then technology challenges, government supports, and lack of skilled manpower. Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to announce that this conference is being conducted alongside with the cooperation of the Management University of Africa and the Kobe Gakuin of Japan, which has consistently been ranked for its digital innovation and online university education. The collaboration and linkage aim to provide academic interactions by delivering special lectures at the Management University of Africa and on topics of relevance to modern industry. This also provides the necessary help in organizing workshops, conference for enhancement of skills in respect of speakers, faculty, staff, and college students. To provide short-term courses, training for college students, corporates looking to earn skills for enhanced skills, and conducting open workshops in various parts of Africa on behalf of MUA. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, the conference will provide a forum for delegates to exchange ideas and present their research work. In addition, it's an ideal platform for interaction and for them to establish very important networks. The keynote speech, the paper presenters, the speakers of the conference are uniquely placed to debate and highlight the key themes, trends, and contemporary practices for the audience. I hope that this conference will allow the participants to form a productive network and look forward to a fruitful deliberation during the next 2 days. I wish all a happy and successful conference. Thank you, and God bless you all. Thank you.
He's talked about considerations of economic, environmental, and social aspects of doing business. He's also put an emphasis on the need and challenges for innovation in business, as well as talking in depth about the challenges of technological innovation in business. And with that, I think we have benefited a lot from that address from Dr. Edward Odundo. Thank you very much. Now go on to the next part of our program, which is a health break. I think we are doing well. We are at 7 minutes to 10. I don't know about your watch, but it could be around there. According to the schedule, we should be out for the 15 minutes health break. That was to be from 10 to 10:15. So I guess that means we'll have a little bit more time for the health break. So we reconvene at exactly 10:15 to proceed with the conference. So thank you very much and have a good break. Maybe a word from the Dean. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm reminded that there's a group photo. So this group photo, we may have to, I need direction. I hope at the admin block. Yes. So we all assemble at the admin block for the group photo. Then you have your health tea, and at exactly 10:15, we assemble back here. Thank you very much. We now want to move on with our conference. And at this juncture, I want to introduce you. We are moving on because already it is 19 past 10. We were to begin at 15 past 10. So our presenters, some of them are online and they're waiting. So I think we can move on. So I now have the singular honor of inviting Professor Richard Miller, who is going to be our keynote speaker for some 30 minutes. Just a brief about Professor Richard Miller. Richard Miller has a doctorate in political economy and an MBA in marketing, as well as a BS degree. He's currently a professor at Osaka Jogakuin College in Japan. Formerly, he was professor, Department of International and English Disciplinary Studies, as well as an associate professor at Kobe Gakuen University in Japan. He has also been a lecturer at Kansai University and at Dentsu University, as well as Ritsumeikan University, all in Japan. As well as being a professor and a holder of a PhD, he is also pursuing another PhD at the Management University of Africa. So he's wearing two hats. He's as well a student of this university and a professor in at Osaka Jogakuin College
Recording
in Japan.
in progress.
Professor Miller is also associated with some self-help group in the Korogocho slums of Nairobi. Maybe he'll talk about that if he pleases. So with that, I have the singular honor of inviting Professor Miller to take over. Welcome, Prof.
Thank you very much, Professor Awar. I hope everyone can hear me well. And I wanted to mention also that have transpired over the last 2 years. And unfortunately, due to COVID restrictions, we're unable to join you, in person in Nairobi. But guaranteed, the next time we will, because 2 years ago during the conference, things were quite different and there was complete lockdowns all over the world. So things seem to be getting better. So I wanted to say that it is a real honor, and I'm very happy that I can join as the first keynote speaker for today, and very honored to be following with Dr. Edward Odundo, as well as everyone who's also introduced us, including the Vice Chancellor and the Deputy Vice Chancellor. So I just also wanted to mention a couple of quick things. Today, I was asked to speak a little bit about how the world is sort of has been evolving and changing, some of the leadership challenges in the post-COVID world, and what we as humans have to sort of endure, and how we are sort of dealing with that. So what I'll do today is I'm going to talk a little bit about how I see the world changing and how things are going to evolve, but also bring it back to the audience, everyone in the audience, from undergraduate to PhD students to guests who've already graduated and are no longer studying, but things that I wanted you to think about. By the way, I wanted to say that my nephew in Canada has joined for a little bit for today. It's now 3:30 in the morning for him in Eastern Canada. Also here in Japan, it is now about 4:30 p.m., a little bit before that. So just something that we can sort of think about is how close the world is and how close things are, how closely we get together. But the irony is that as this is happening, the world is fragmented and it is getting further apart. And a lot of that has been due to COVID, but these are movements that have gone forward long before COVID and long before things have been going on. So I'll talk a little bit about that and how these things are something that we should all be thinking about. And as a leadership conference, I always like to start with one of my favorite leadership scholars, Peter Drucker, right? So management is doing things right, while leadership is doing the right things. And the reason I'm bringing this up is just to refresh everybody's memory for us, and thinking about the difference between management and leadership and how they cross together and how we can work together to sort of look at that and how leadership is so important in the world today. And so, you know, one of the things from our very first speaker this morning, Dr. Odondo, you know, things are all very relevant that I'll be talking about, particularly things like sustainability and the importance of sustainability. But also what Dr. Okeo, Professor Okeo often brings up is the importance of application of theory. How are we actually able to use some of the theory in the relevance of today's world? And that's something I think is really important. One of the really exciting things about studying at Management University of Africa is to really see how things, we talk in abstracts, we talk about how things are sort of in theory, but then we bring it back and how do things work together. So I'd like you to sort of think about that today. So what I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about the macro, in other words, the world, the global situation. As mentioned, I had studied quite a bit about global issues, political economy, international relations, and how all of that sort of fits. And I often think of things like in a long pest. So I go back to my MBA, and the long pest is, the local, national, and global, political, economic, societal, and technological, and how all of these things sort of interact. But we can also think about the meso, and then finally today, I really want you to think about the individual for yourself, because management and leadership often, well, it always begins with the self. Think about yourself and how do you self-manage, and how do you manage yourself out of these, not only out of this situation, but how do you self-manage yourself to lead, to do things right, but also to do things the right way. So if we look at today's world and we look at, I just took this snapshot this morning. These are the different newspapers and the different newspaper covers from around the globe. And it doesn't matter if we're in Kenya, or in Japan, or in Europe, or we're in America, a lot of this is really sort of going back to what had happened before. And to understand what's happening today, we really need to understand the past. For example, the passing of Queen Elizabeth II to Ukraine. All of these things are in headlines today. They're all very relevant to where the global situation is and where we might fit in from Kenya to Japan to other parts of the world, because the world is very much globalized, and it may be fragmenting, the globalization is still there. And if we think about Queen Elizabeth's passing, I'm from Canada. I was, so in Canada, we had grown up with Queen still as the figurehead of the nation, and of course Kenya as well as being part of the Commonwealth. So it has to. A lot of that goes back to what was going on with Ukraine. Again, some of these structural problems, these geopolitical issues that have been arising, really go back in time, and we start to look at what had happened, how theories had been implemented, how theories had come forward in the past, and then they had really been used, or they really show what's going on today. I actually wrote an article about a little over 2 years ago, and I published it called Anarchy in the International System. So this kind of fits well with, I wrote this just as COVID was starting. I had no idea how bad COVID was going to be, but you could definitely see that anarchy was rising again. Now, anarchy, when we talk about anarchy in an international system, we're talking about the breakdown of the system that was in place from post-World War II. And that system is one that has been in place, and it is. Can you hear me? I'm sorry, somebody sent me a message. If you can't hear me, please let me know. I'm hoping it's okay. So anarchy in the international system means that things are becoming separated, and some of the international order that was in place is no longer in place. And it's shifting rather dramatically. We have the rise of power, China as a superpower once again, and we have Russia, which is rising again. We also have India. So there are a number of different things that are starting to happen, but against the backdrop, we also have energy and population. So there's quite a lot. This is and again, we've just gone through a world trauma of a coronavirus pandemic. So all of these things become exasperated, they become coming up very quickly, and they are expedited. But there are flaws that are coming through. For example, is China as strong as they once said they were? What about what's happening with Russia? It's a very difficult time, and we're right in the middle of a lot of things. So things are quite difficult sometimes to see. And as leaders, as managers, we really need to be able to understand what is going on in the global world and within international relations so that we can act locally, not only locally, but we can act for either our firm, our institution, and also for ourselves. Because I just went back to Canada, for example, and there's a dramatic difference for myself. I hadn't been to my home country for 6 years, and a dramatic change has occurred. A lot of it has happened just post-COVID, or just because during COVID, the COVID times. But again, it's something that I was aware of, something we needed to be to know, and things like inflation. You go there, things are extremely expensive. So as a manager, how would I deal with that? Personally, I'm involved in education. So sending students overseas, we need to be aware of extreme differences in costs from 7 years ago to today, for example. But any firm and any organization needs to be aware of that. But also as an individual investor, you may want to think about being diversified and having different assets in different currencies, and being aware of where they were, you know, being aware of what the mass media is saying. When Ukraine invaded, when Russia invaded Ukraine, or Ukraine was invaded by Russia, a lot of the media in North America, Al Jazeera, Europe, they had really said that, you know, that Ukraine would, that Russia was going to lose, and Russia would be kicked out so quickly, and so on. But if you know history, you know that that may not be necessarily true. So these are things I think that are important that we're aware of. And you also start to wonder, you know, again, if you understand how the system is breaking apart and the old system is not there, things like Ukraine, while they're not good, I certainly don't think they're good, they're not a big surprise. They're not a big surprise. And if Russia were to do something else, it may not be a big surprise. Again, not whether we agree or disagree or really dislike or like, these are facts and these are things that will happen. You know, the world there's a theory that has been around. There's two main theories on international relations that have been around for between 150 and 100 years, just over. And if we look at the world map, we start to see a big, huge chunk of land. And that's starting to include Africa now. As Africa rises, as it becomes more geopolitically important. Of course, for everyone who lives in the continent, it's always been extremely important. But I'm talking internationally due to the resources as well as the growth of the economy. We'll start to see where it becomes very important. And things like the sea, the seas and the oceans, sea power, and that is still extremely important. And those who may think that the sea isn't as important as it was only needs to look at Taiwan, China, and how there's still that gap between Taiwan and China, and whether China can take over Taiwan, it's not that easy because of the sea power. Sea power is still extremely important. And that projection of power by the superpowers, including, of course, the United States, which for the longest time, for 2 decades when I was a student, was the only superpower. However, we need to recognize India, we need to recognize China, and we need to continuously recognize Russia. But when, you know, if we go back 130 years ago, the United Kingdom was the supreme power as far as naval power goes, and Japan was rising. So, but the other one, the other main theory, so this is the sea power theory, is the land power theory. And this is the Heartland theory. This was really the start of the study of geopolitics and international relations in a modern sense. And it was by Mackinder, who started it in 1904. And he looks at the heartland. And again, the heartland is who controls the heartland controls the world. And at that time, the United States was thought of as a peripheral, outside. But again, modern theory in starting to include the continent of Africa as one major land mass. Now, if we start to think about that, we can start to understand why there's more conflict between, say, China and India when that was happening, but certainly within Russia and Ukraine. So with Europe going further east, these are issues that we should be aware of because it affects everything. And those of the, and I'll hear people argue, oh, it's far away, it doesn't affect me. Well, it affects all of us because of supply chain. My professor at Management University of Africa, he's a supply chain scholar, and it's an exciting time. Unfortunately, I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that the supply chain is critical. And once we start getting disruptions, it's really evident in the inflation. So as I mentioned, I went back to Canada, and suddenly things that used to cost, $1.50 are now $4. Again, that inflation is supply side